been just over 2 weeks since the last AOR 2 patch update, but there is a lot of stuff that has happened. Significant quality of life updates and mechanics changes and balance changes and all of the usual raft of minor changes to go along with that. But there is one thing I got to get to first, which is the retirement of Badger, or Triple Badger, depending on how you look at it. He's been a full-time volunteer, full-time plus, really, on the inside for years. Really helped keep things afloat during the early access period. AI War 2 would have not have happened without him, or Puffin, or Chris Park, the primary developer, but Badger's been a key part of it. The upcoming Zenith Onslaught DLC is primarily his brainchild. I just wanted to give a shout out to him because he's moving on to other things after the DLC hits, but he has really been a big part. And those of us who feel like we've gotten our money's worth out of the game really owe Badger a debt of gratitude. So appreciate everything that he's done. Alright, so let's get to the change mechanics. Deep striking and AI reserves is the first part, and I've got a little bit of a demonstration here. Deep striking now activates a little bit differently. You get the notification here, but it gives you a warning until the AI will open new wormhole to bring in reserves. And that starts at 2 minutes. You've got that long to basically recapture a planet that you've lost. Or it will also work the other way. If you come into an AI system and you've put up a command station right away, that doesn't stop deep striking unless you've eliminated all the major AI buildings on the planet. So the sniping of your command station, or you sniping the AI command station, is essentially given this grace period for the purposes of deep striking. Now I've come in here and cleared out this planet and just sort of waiting around so that we can see what we're going to be dealing with. And as this timer runs down, it's not like before where they just pop in to any part of the system in a big ball. There it is. And now they're going to work on another wormhole, and that one's going to take less time. And their wormhole they open, you can see we don't have anything here. It goes to a nearby system. And so I'm just waiting here to see where they're going to enter, which should not take too long. Let's make sure it doesn't. There they go. Now they're popping in from over there. We'll slow this down again. So you can see we've got them coming in here, and I'm actually kind of curious how we'll hold up long term against this. So I'm just going to kind of let it run. Let's throw our battle station out here. But that is how the reserves now work. And so they're a little bit more interesting and a little bit more of a grace period. And generally, you know, it's just sort of a more nuanced system. And it does not look like we're going to be having fun anytime soon here. So I'm just going to pause this. Another item that has changed is turrets. There's been a big rebalancing going on there. Probably the single biggest thing is that the Nerf hammer hit the Seeker, which has now a damage cap and only does a third of the damage it did before. I just considered that they were way too overpowered in terms of their value against Exo Strike and other large types of units compared to the other turrets. Plasmas are also worse than they were before. They lowered the firing rate in that case. Counter snipers do somewhat less damage. On the other side, fortified Teslas, Harmonic, MLRS, Blaster, and Scrap are all better than they were. And they're going to continue working on this, but there's a turret rebalance going on, and I think they're just trying to, not necessarily make them all the same, but put them all in the same general ballpark so that there's more real choice between the turret types. Reinforcements. If we come out to the galactic map, there is a huge change that has gone into effect here. Before, basically, they were dumping virtually all their reinforcements into planets that border you, what we call on alert. And there were some bugs with that they found when going through and changing this, but now there are 4 tiers of planets depending on, you know, whether they're on your territory, what type of structures are on the planet, you know, it's a homeworld, those types of things. And each tier has a different reinforcement cap and also priority, so the percentage of the AI reinforcement budget that it'll get. And the practical effect of this is they shouldn't be building up quite as massive of a crust around you as quickly. in terms of the planets that border you, but also as you proceed deeper into the galaxy, there'll be more resistance there, and they're tweaking the amounts. This could affect how your CPAs look. This is something that's going to require a lot of balancing over the long term, but it should end up with a more dynamic situation as things settle out. And the final one in terms of major mechanic changes is Synchronizing Exo Attacks. And this is something that was around in Classic, but we haven't seen AI War 2 yet. If an Exo Strike is getting close to firing and you've got a CPA or a wormhole invasion about to go, they'll synchronize together and coordinate their activities. And so this can be particularly dangerous if you're getting a wormhole invasion behind your line. You think you've got that handled, but the Exo Strike hits at the same time. You're going to want to be extra careful in that scenario. Okay, so we'll pop back into AS now because a couple of the quality of life things are up next. So you may recall before I have had a lot of problems with changing the standing orders here with multiple fleets at a time. And one of the things they've changed now is you want to hit Control plus whatever button it is in order to undo that much more quickly. So Control V turns it off, and then G to turn them on. Control G, you can see that's all working excellent. We're doing the X here for attack move. So you hit just the button itself, like X, to turn it on, and then Control plus whatever it is to turn it off. And that's working much more smoothly and flawlessly now. So that's another long-standing quality of life thing out of the way. And then the second one that we're going to be looking at is stationary flagship mode. So if we go into one of our fleets here, right now I have it off, but you can see the tooltip here. If you want to read the tooltip, go ahead and pause it here. But if you turn it on to stationary flagship mode, and all of your standard flagships will default to this, that's causing some objections. I'll probably eventually turn it to where it defaults off. We'll see. But what that does is it stops the flagship where it is. So when you want to get into a fight, but you don't want the flagship to get too close or it'll get crippled, or you just want to keep one near the edge of the system for whatever reason, I've definitely had cause to do that in a lot of the homeworld attacks where I wanted to keep my transports near the wormhole so they could escape all of the big firepower. You want to stay away from certain guard posts or whatever, but you want your ships going somewhere maybe a little bit further away. Now that's much more easy to manage with that option. And those are a couple of the quality of life things that for me, basically since the game was released have been the most annoying to deal with. So I'm really glad to see those knocked out in this recent patch. The rest are still on a bit on the minor side, but they're still important. The iBots now have a cap on their damage, so they won't be quite as devastating to really powerful shields or really powerful high energy types of ships. The quick start, a twisted enemy, is causing a lot of people problems because by accident the Scourge in those had this super strong modifier turned on, which actually wasn't intended to be used. So that's off in there, and so that quick start should be more manageable, the difficulty that it's supposed to be. Astro trains are gotten some improved logic and also have become stronger. Human resistance fighters no longer jump in on eye planets, and this has been a big issue with them. As they've scaled up the human resistance fighters and made them more useful, if they come into a system with an eye, then they trigger the eye, and then if you've got them on, how do you manage an eye system? How do you keep the right amount of force in there to do what you need to do and clear out the guard post without triggering it? So that's going to really make them much more viable and potentially a positive, even if you have a galaxy with a bunch of eye systems in it or eyes in critical situations. There's been a number of tweaks to the Dyson Sphere. The more times you antagonize them with hacks, the stronger that antagonized response will get. They now attrition all enemies that are on their planet, which will help them defensively. And there's now a limit on the number of Dyson Sentinels you can hack from. Now, it takes quite a bit to farm Dyson Sentinels because you have to put up with a long antagonized response every time you do it. But they are very powerful, so particularly on the damage side. There's also some new journals. We've got one for Astro Trains, one for Warden, one for Hunter, one for Praetorian. I'll let you look at those in your own game at your leisure. That type of lore and flavor continuing to be added. And one I forgot to mention earlier that's actually a little bit more on the higher importance side is the strength calculations. When you take a ship, like our Raptor here, and you see 0.03 strength, the way that number is come up with is now tweaked more towards the damage side than the health side, and it was fairly even. They're trying to get more accurate with that. Tanky ships do matter, but more often than not, it's the damage that wins a battle in comparison, because the more enemies you knock out, the less they can shoot at you. And they've already gone through a couple revisions on that. They're probably going to go through more. And that's not just a surface level thing, because some factions, such as the Dark Spire, they have really high health and fairly low damage, so it's going to rate their ships as being weaker individually, which is actually going to cause them to spawn more. So it'll actually make the Dark Spire stronger. Yay, because they really needed that. But all those things can be tweaked over time. It also should make the AI smarter, because they use strength as a big part of their calculations in terms of when they're going to attack. And the more accurate that strength formula gets, the smarter they are going to be with that as well. So, a lot of stuff there. I hope it's useful. It definitely changes coming, and there's a couple more quality of life issues that Chris has asked about. I'm hoping they'll get knocked out soon. Could very well have another patch update coming in a week or two, depending on how active those things go. But as usual, I'll just play that by ear and do it when it seems to me to be warranted. So thanks for watching, everybody, and good luck in your personal AI War 2 adventures.